Welcome back to the Farms in BC podcast. I'm your host, Nav Seacon, and today we have a special guest, Vikas Kapoor from Kapoor Home Design. And today we're going to be discussing everything related to farm home designs and the ALC home restrictions. Stay tuned. So welcome, Vic. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, Nav. A little snowy today.
Yeah.
But, thank you for having me. I really appreciate you.
No, thank you for taking out the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know I've been wanting to do this with you for quite some time, and it was actually a mutual friend of ours, my builder, who highly actually planted the seed to me saying, hey, you know who would be pretty good on your podcast? He's like, Vic would be. I was like, you know what? You're right.
Awesome. Awesome. No, I love Gary's wonderful builder. And no, it's fantastic. So thank you.
So let's dive deep into yourself. So tell us about yourself and tell us about your journey with Kapoor Home Design.
Absolutely. It starts from the beginning, and everyone says, hey, it starts from when you're a kid, but it truly did start from when I was young. I was always really good at art, and it's the one thing that I could lose myself in. And so even at a young age, I knew, hey, I can draw. I can always draw well, and sometimes I start doing a drawing, half an hour, 45 minutes, and you pop your head up, and where am I? And that was that passion. That was where I could completely dive into drawing. And at a young age, I was drawing cartoons. I would do superheroes.
So this is elementary
school.
Okay.
And as high school, kind of progressed, we would, you do all the different art stuff, and whenever I got a chance to pick what I wanted to do, it was always designing houses. I think I always had a passion for understanding how houses work, how bathrooms work. Family's always been in real estate, so housing's always been a big part of growing up, and so I started doing I started designing houses at a very young age. Also working on houses, so I have both those aspects.
So this is all throughout high school.
This is all throughout high school.
And were your parents builders?
Well, actually, my mom's an artist.
Okay.
And my dad works in municipal government in planning. So I think when you take those two together, you get
Kapoor Home Design.
So it kind of worked out, and then I went to school in Calgary.
Okay.
I studied design in Calgary, and went through the steps of design, and actually I got really lucky. So while I was in Calgary, I had the opportunity to work with a very seasoned luxury custom home builder. And now again, this is 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And at the time, they had worldwide experience.
Oh, really?
So while I was young, I learned things that a lot of people don't learn. And I would learn how to design a kitchen, how to have optimal layout, how flow works when you have 2 or 3 people in a kitchen. They taught me about, how to organize built-ins, where to put them to get maximum effect, room spaces, room sizes. So this is stuff outside of school. So I really got a chance in the luxury market to say,
you were hands-on during school.
During school.
Yeah,
and,
which is really rare.
Which was rare. And just the passion grew. And so I started learning all these things. And when I came back to BC, I was newly married. Mm-hmm. And what happened was, me and my wife, we were talking about it, and we thought, hey, let's get some municipal experience before I open a company.
So you always knew you wanted to open up your own company?
I always knew I wanted to be my own boss.
Okay.
I always knew that the only way I would be happy is if I didn't answer to anybody.
And you had full creative control.
Full creative control.
That's right.
And so, designing homes is one thing, but it's very daunting as a younger designer to understand zoning, municipal regulations, building code.
And which kept changing.
Yeah. And so, I worked in a few municipalities approving plans. And that was just hands-on experience on the other side of the desk. And
which is great experience, because now that is a challenge on itself when you apply.
Absolutely.
Dealing with the city themselves, getting it approved and what they're looking for, and
how to meet
navigate.
And, doing farm properties is very, very difficult.
Yes.
It's not easy. When you have creeks, you have trees, setbacks, septic fields, farm plates, putting all these things together, development permit area, stream side, and typically on farm properties we have those.
Yeah.
So getting to understand that from the other side was really good.
Yeah.
And then I opened up Kapoor Home Design. And
so when you opened up Kapoor Design, were you still at the city as well?
No, I had left.
You had you were fully exited.
Yeah, I had left. Okay. And so opened up Kapoor Home Design, and I thought, hey, it's going to be easy. I'm just going to start designing houses. Holy crap, was I wrong. I was putting ads in Craigslist.
Yeah.
I was driving around, the whole door knocking.
Yeah.
I was door knocking.
Yeah.
I was door knocking in subdivisions, talking to developers. Hey, you want to use me to do plans, and your first question, you get a portfolio?
Yeah.
Right? You design any houses, and obviously I didn't have anything.
Yeah.
And so you get a little bit of like, oh,
yeah, wow,
okay, this is not so easy. And then my wife, she's brilliant. She says, Vic, let's get on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Facebook? I'm like, forget Facebook. I need newspapers. I need to get out there. And she's like, no, you're wrong. Let's get on Facebook. And I said, well, help me out. You do it. He said, give me some drawings. Give me some stuff. Give me some stuff I can put on there. And so she starts, putting my stuff on, running my Facebook page. Next thing you know, she's like, here, call this person. Message through Facebook. Really?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And,
we got a lead.
Yeah, we got a lead. A couple of days later, another one.
Yeah.
Another one. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I was wrong.
Yeah.
And so it just started snowballing. And when it really changed was when I had some stuff. There was a few people that gave me a chance.
Oh yeah. And that's all it takes.
It's all it takes. And there was a few people that gave me a chance and said, Vic, have at her.
Yeah.
And so we designed these houses, and it took a bit of time because renderings weren't a huge thing back years back.
Yeah.
So you really had to wait for the house to be finished, and then people were like, oh, okay, this guy can design a house.
Yeah.
And then that led me to move away from the spec stuff. And nothing wrong with spec stuff. I love the spec stuff. It's great. It's quick. But I was able to jump into the luxury stuff.
Yeah.
The real custom stuff, because I love designing houses when there's a big difference when you design a house that's like, hey, I need to design a house that we need to sell, from, hey, here's a house that I'm going to live in for 15 years.
Yeah.
Tell me how, I'm going to grow in this house. My kids are going to grow in this house. My parents are going to age in this house. And so you really get into the nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah.
You're designing washrooms the right way. You're designing staircases. You're designing, all these things. I went for hours. Yeah, I could go on for hours and hours. But
I went through the process myself.
You've gone through the process yourself.
It's daunting, but it's rewarding.
It's rewarding
once it's all done.
Once it's there,
Yeah.
and so that changed, and now here we are today. And I've been very lucky, and I'm very grateful to all of my clients, and all the people that took a chance on me and said, hey, and now people just they take a chance, and we do some really cool stuff.
And that's how I found you. The first time I ever heard of Kapoor Home Design was on Instagram. And this is going back 17, 18.
Yeah.
And at that time, I just started following a lot of designers, just looking at houses and like new trends, and you would keep popping up, or people would tag you, or I'd see it, and then that's when that's what introduced me to you, was Instagram.
Awesome.
Yeah, and now you've got a massive following. You're busier than ever.
It's we are blessed. There was some times and it was the market was busy, but we were very busy, and still even with the market slowdown, we found a few niches, multi-generational houses.
Yep.
It's unbelievable. There's a lot of people out there looking to build a multi-generational house for family, especially on farms.
Yes.
And because you have farming families.
That's right.
And right now, even with the market slowdown, even some of the there's deals to be had out there, and so there's a lot of traction in those lots right now. So
how are you finding with multi-generational families wanting to build on agricultural land, with this new housing rule of 5,400 square feet, of maximizing the 5,400 square foot house size, are you finding it very difficult to navigate all of your clients' wants and needs?
I guess
within that square footage?
I'll lead by saying I have a lot of respect for the ELC.
Yes.
I'll lead by saying I really respect what they're doing, protecting farmland. I'm a very big advocate of locally grown, a very big advocate of of farms. We completely need them. But what I found that the 5,400 square foot regulation was almost like a reactionary, if that's even a real word.
Yeah.
It was a reaction. It was a reaction. It was a political reaction. There was a few people building mega 20,000 square foot houses when they didn't really belong. And what it did was it soured the water for the genuine farmers.
Correct.
And so when I get a call from someone that wants to design on a farm, it's not a family of four.
No.
Right? It's not a husband and a wife and two kids calling me saying, hey, I want to build a house on this 10 or 20 or 30 acre farm.
Yeah.
I get, a mother and a father, adult children.
With
their parents.
Yeah.
Right? So rarely do I have less than 6 to 8 people.
Yeah.
I've designed houses, and even pre-limit, I had a guy in the interior, and he had 14 family members.
Yeah.
And he had hundreds of acres of farm.
Yeah.
And he was a bona fide farmer. And they all lived in the house. There was no wasted square footage. There was no excess. They needed the space. They needed the space. Because everyone lived and worked together.
Correct.
So I'm finding that here, it's a hard pill for me to swallow when I can take an 8,000 square foot lot anywhere in the Lower Mainland, and I can put an 8,000 square foot house on an 8,000 square foot lot. And then I have someone calling me who has 20, 30 acres, and I'm like, well, you can build 5,400 square feet. Some municipalities even go so far as including decks in that. And I get why they do it, because you know what? People abuse it.
Correct.
So they're not wrong. But I always felt that if we could take each as a case by case, maybe, or increase the limit a little bit, like, someone with 2 acres, like if I took an acre in Langley,
yes,
I could put a 16,000 square foot house on an acre in Langley.
Correct.
And an accessory building.
Correct.
No problem.
Yeah.
So, and that acre could be right next to a farm property where
they cannot.
Yeah. And, if there was some way to review these plans and say, okay, if someone showed up to the table with a 12,000 square foot house that had 6 bedrooms and, a 6,000 square foot media room, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
Right? But if you showed up with a larger house, 8,000 square feet, that's kind of a sweet spot.
Yeah.
I can put some rooms in there, and we don't need massive opulence, right?
No.
We could create a beautiful house, a functioning house, and when you have these large families, you need to separate. People need space.
Correct.
Space is healthy.
Correct. And I think with the larger homes, and like you said, a lot of these generational homes, sometimes it's 2 brothers with their wives and their sets of kids with parents. So you almost need like 3 separate living areas.
Absolutely.
You may share a kitchen.
Yeah.
You may share certain common areas, but you still need your space to function in that type of setting.
And that's how I do it.
Yeah.
We have a big kitchen, spice kitchen.
Correct.
And the family shares the kitchen because they're a joint unit. They live together.
They eat together. Yep.
But when you have, let's say, for instance, one brother and his family and another brother and his family and kids of different ages, you don't want younger kids keeping up the entire household.
Yeah.
And especially with the cost of living now.
Yes.
Right?
It's cheaper to build these bigger houses.
It's cheaper to build the bigger house,
than
live together.
Yeah.
And, it's a good investment.
Yeah. Share the cost. Yeah. One thing I do recommend, if you do come across genuine, bona fide farmers, from what I've heard throughout the grapevine, ALC is starting to really understand that they were maybe too aggressive blanketing this for everyone.
Okay.
I would highly recommend them to put a good plan together, put their case forward to the city and to the ALC.
Okay.
And if you can prove that you're multi-generational farmer, bona fide farmer, you've got history, your chances are very high. You may apply for a 15,000 square feet, you may only get 10, but they are willing to work with bona fide, legitimate, multi-generational farmers. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, I would really push them to do that. We have been pushing our clients that are in that limbo of, hey, should we just sell it and go buy 2 5-acre or 3 5-acre farms? Yeah. Which obviously the prices are ridiculously high. Or do we? And I said, hey, go try it first, because you've been farming. You're second generation farming now. Yeah. All the sons are involved in the farming operation. Go put your case forward. Okay. And that's what these rules were made for. It was meant for restricting the people that were abusing, but allowing the individuals to still run their farming operation. When it comes to designing farm buildings, is that something that you do or like to do? So like I'm talking barns, accessory buildings, coach homes.
So I don't do a ton of barns. Okay. But I love accessory buildings. Okay. Accessory building to me, and I always use the same term, and I always say the accessory building is a really nice tie on a nice suit. Yeah. And if you strategically design an accessory building, it really amplifies the house.
Oh, for sure.
Whether it's next to the house, or whether it's, say, behind the house, between maybe a pool and a house. Yeah. It really amplifies the living area. Yes. And also what it does is it allows a little bit of separation. It allows you to, let's say someone puts a nice gym in an accessory building. It allows you to escape the household for a minute. Yeah. And you're in your tranquil area. Yeah. And then you come back, and I've always felt that, you know, designing accessory buildings, I get really creative with accessory buildings. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And I even love workshops. Yeah. Like having workshop myself and having work with my hands. Yeah. You know, I can design workbenches, where the windows go, where the cabinets go, and you know, I have a lot of fun doing it because the trick is I always visualize it's me. So if I'm designing for someone, you know, I have their wants and needs, but you know, you're always like a kid, like, hey, you know, what's a good way to do this, or what's a good way to, you know, where should I put the drills and where the cabinets, because it's a farm. That's right. And you know, things are so important on farms, like even mudrooms. Yeah. Whether it's whether it's in the house or in an accessory building. You know, a mudroom in a residential house is so much different than a mudroom in a farmhouse. That's right. Right, because you know you use that mudroom and it will get muddy, and it's really a mudroom. So absolutely. So yeah, accessory buildings, my favorite. I love it. So when it comes to farmhouse designs, what are the most popular designs for on farm properties, and which one would you say is the most popular? Out of all the designs that you've seen? Farmhouse is most definitely, you know, the most popular emerging one. And whether it's a modern farmhouse, California farmhouse. Now I've seen a contemporary farmhouse. Rustic farmhouses, you know, mountain-inspired farmhouses. And then there's a few European-style, like Dutch. Those are really nice. They're beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. And, you know, I see these as the emerging trend. I also, prairie modern, like a, how should I say, low hip roofs, Frank Lloyd Wright inspired, larger overhangs, kind of a more contemporary. Yeah. They fit, they fit well. And I found the trick is to mass it correctly. Yeah. So no matter what style someone brings to me, like if someone says to me, hey, I want a modern flat roof house, what I would do is I would say, okay, let's look at things like Napa Valley vineyards. You know, they have nice modern flat roof houses in those nice rolling vineyards, and one of the things that makes them beautiful is not just, you know, a flatness to the building, but staggered massing. Yeah. Open spaces, you know, breezeways. So I would do that, but 100% farmhouse, you know, any sort of variation of farmhouse. And I feel I have seen modern homes. Yes, on a regular. I've seen actually all different types of designs on farms, and I think it is really a personal touch. It is. Yeah. Most or personal feel, right? Yeah. And a lot of times I'll have clients which come to the table with different opinions. So, you know, working through those and meshing those together, you know, the younger generation is more modern. Yes. The older generation is more traditional.
Yeah.
And we see a lot of the heavy molding stucco. I would say it's like a French provincial type house. This is definitely popular with the older generation.
Yeah.
It's a timeless look. It's almost borderline Spanish villa.
Yeah.
So, really everything is there, and we got such a wide variety of choices. Here, so.
Well, that was the other thing. I was like, in the last 10 years, 5-10 years, we've seen interior and exterior designs change quite significantly just due to social media.
Yes.
The access to information for the client is overwhelming. Like, sometimes it gets way overwhelming. Now, I want to know, what process do you take on knowing which design is best for the client? And if you can take us through like a kind of from beginning to end process of what type of design to choose and then to finish. Like, if you can go through that process.
So a lot of clients will come to the table, and they'll come to the table with multiple drawings. Like, I've had people show me, here's 30 images I love.
And they're all different designs.
They're all different.
Okay.
So I will force a client to say, you have to pick 3.
Okay.
You have to pick 3 that are your
That's
top,
generous.
right? And what happens is I'll say 3, but they'll come back with 6.
Okay.
And from that, I can gauge what is really popular. I'll also want to look at the other 30.
Yeah.
Because I'll look at the 30, but then I'll look at the 6, and I'll see if there's any,
resemblance,
similarities, and then I can kind of take it in that direction. And for the most part, most people, they're smarter than me. They come to the table with more research on a specific thing, like you said, with the internet now.
Yeah.
And with social media, Pinterest. I'll get clients will send me their Pinterest board.
Yeah.
And it's the whole kit and caboodle is on there.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to see, So for me, what I do is I get to know the family first.
Yeah. Which is, I think, very important.
Which is really important. I guess one of the things that would make a successful designer, and not in a conceited way, this is a learned thing, is the ability to genuinely connect with the client.
Yes.
It's easy for someone to say, here's a piece of paper. Write down how many rooms and everything you want. But that's not going to get them what they really want. Yeah. So you got to talk to them. You got to talk to them, and you got to understand their lifestyle. What are their jobs? Right? Yeah. How do they wake up? What do they do? And I really dive into that. I really want to know about the kids. What are their hobbies? Like, if I have a client that wants a piano, or a kid that plays a piano, it's a very different design than someone that plays hockey.
Yeah.
Right? Because you need a garage where you can keep the hockey equipment, and you need
a bigger garage.
Bigger garage. And all these things. So I really get into that lifestyle. And what are you now, and what are you going to be in 10 years? My design consults sometimes last 6 hours. I have to break them into 2 days.
Yeah.
On average, 3 hours. But I've been there 6 hours.
Yeah.
And then you really understand it. And then I'll take all of that knowledge, and I'll put it, on a layout.
So those layouts, do you just sketch it by hand and kind of give like a preliminary, like, hey guys, this is kind of what I'm thinking before you really start?
If we have confusion or separate thoughts, then maybe I'll go rough. I won't invest too much time. I'll say, okay, here's some stuff. But for the most part, see, for me, I can take a layout, and while I'm drawing a layout, I'm visualizing the outside of the house. So I can actually see it in 3D as I'm drawing it.
Yeah.
And a client can't.
No.
So I got to put some line drawings together. And what I'll do is I'll take all of their thoughts, and I'll compile it, put the rooms where they strategically need to go, whether it's for sun or for this, or even feng shui. Right? Yeah. I'll get a feng shui report, 10-page report, saying that based on this birthday, this kid's room has to go here, this kid's room has to go on this side. And those are always challenging. Yeah. Because you really, now you're taking one extra level. So there's all, there's a lot.
Yeah.
And so then I'll put that together and I'll present it to the client. And it's a love or hate or in between kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And what's really interesting actually is with COVID. So when COVID happened, no one wanted to come to my office anymore.
Okay.
And I stumbled upon this just by fluke. And normally what I do is, I do a set of layouts, I send it to the client. They'd get the set of layouts and they'd drive to my office. We'd sit down, we'd mark up the layouts, I go back to my desk. I draw. A couple of days later, I give them a new revision. And the process goes back and forth, back and forth. And so you get a client from North Vancouver, driving all the way out to Langley, 5C. So when COVID happened, I switched to Zoom.
Yeah.
No one was doing anything. And then, I'm doing the same thing on Zoom. But one day a client of mine says, hey, Vic, why don't can you put your AutoCAD on? Because we were having trouble with the bathroom. I said, yeah, it's a good idea. So I cast my AutoCAD screen on, and then I can draft, in real time.
Yeah.
So he's talking to me, and I'm drafting. I'm moving the toilets, and and then I'm like, holy crap! 2 hours goes by, and we did 4 or 5 meetings in 2 hours.
2 hours. Wow, interesting.
So then I started telling clients, listen, you know what? I know there's a lot of people that like to meet in person, but if you just give this a chance.
Yeah.
So now I got clients. They're at home in their pajamas. They got their coffee.
Yeah.
And they're sitting on their couch and they're casting their iPad to their TV screen. So we're talking and they're looking at my screen on their TV screen.
And they
don't have to drive to my office. They don't have to get ready.
Yeah.
They're just relaxed and we're designing.
Yeah.
And we're designing in real time. And we're not going to do the whole house, but it can take
the challenging parts.
The challenging parts, I can say, okay, here, if we do this, instead of me doing it and then they getting frustrated, I can say, okay, here, let me just do it right now in 5 minutes, right? Or I'm working, I'm like, hey, go get a snack.
Yeah,
right?
Give me 5 minutes.
Give me 5 minutes.
Yeah,
I'm doing it. Half the time they're just sitting there, watching, and then holy, there it is.
Yeah,
and so that really streamlined the process.
Yeah,
and also what it is, it took a lot of frustration out of the process.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the clients felt they were really involved, and that's what was key. Is now the client is like, it's not like they're sitting at home waiting for this thing and then they get it. They're with me.
Yeah.
Right? And they're part of the design and they're telling me what they like, what they don't like, and we're modifying. So yeah. And then once we get a handle on the layouts, I like to do sketches. Exterior sketches. So I can draw these things out. And like on Instagram, social media, and I'll draw. I
love watching those.
Do you?
I love watching.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. My wife, she recorded me. One day, and I was talking to her, and she's just recording me from behind, just for fun, and she's like, "This is gonna make a great video." Yeah. And it just took off. So now, I just start drawing, but I'll draw these up and I'll give it to the client, and again, love, hate, fix this, fix that, and we kind of modify it, and then they love it. Then. Now 3D render. We get a 3D render, and here's the colors. Here's your windows. Here's your stone. Here's your landscape. It's all there. And so what used to make people have to wait 1.5 years to really see, 3 days later they can see what it's going to look like. Yeah. And so that's kind of the process.
I think that is also key because when you're just working on the interior, you're seeing all these boxes. And you don't, as someone that doesn't build homes. You don't really know the true dimensions, and then you're always thinking, oh yeah, that would look nice there, but I wonder how the outside would look to mesh all of it, and you visually mesh all it together, right? But that's interesting. So from that point, when you finish the exterior, then
I finish the drawings up for the clients, and lately I've really been involved. I like doing a lot of the drafting myself, and we've had conversations about this in the past where by doing that, it really helps you magnify the drawing. Because when you're really doing it, as opposed to shifting it to somebody else, you can say, wait a second, you know what? I got a better idea here.
Well, not only that, I think you catch the fine details. And you can't catch that by shifting it to somebody else.
So, and people always say to me, they're like, Vic, we're not paying you to do our plan to have someone draft it out, and that is a game changer too. So I've scaled down, but I've really honed in on really nice luxury custom houses, and so when the people are talking, they're always talking to me. They're all my email. I'm the one sending the email. I'm the one on the phone, and that is the personal touch. So getting back to understanding every aspect of the client,
and I think that's what made you excel to the level that you're at.
Thank you.
Is that you put quality over quantity. And what we saw during COVID, or just pre-COVID to during COVID, is we saw a lot of, not only just in the drafting world, but just in a lot of companies, they went quantity over quality. Yeah. And you keeping that level I know it must have been hard because your phone was probably ringing.
I think, it was, and we turned away a lot more than we took in.
Yes,
and not in a conceited way. That just me.
No, I know, and I remember because when I was wanting to design my house, I had called and I said, and I really wanted you to do my design, but you guys were just swamped. And looking, you don't appreciate things like that until after you go through the process with somebody else, and you realize that he valued the peak clients that he has already promised, and he was putting the effort and quality into that rather than just saying yes to everybody.
And that's what I ended up doing. And a lot of people, I would say,
and I think,
respectfully, I promised someone this. If it was your drawing,
I would want the same.
You would want me to
100%.
give the same answer to the other 100%.
Person. So. It's what you can take on.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that that it was hard. It's hard when there's so much out there.
Yeah.
But I think when I guess that's the difference when time is slow.
Yeah.
You stay busy.
Correct. So, when you value those clients, that will come back.
It comes back. So, and then what else I love doing is once the plan is done, a lot of times I like to stick around. I like to stick around and say, hey, listen, let me help you with just reading the structural plan.
Yeah.
Make sure that there isn't a beam that's not supposed to be there, and
try to save some costs.
Engineers here nowadays, they're amazing. The ones that we work with here locally, they're brilliant. Mm-hmm. They really understand these houses.
Yeah.
And then energy advisor, there's trust guys. The trust guys that that we work with here, they're amazing. Yeah. They really, you talk to them and they really help you. Yeah. And they model these things out, and so that when you're still with the owner for that, they respect it. Mm-hmm. And so I like to do that.
When it comes to hiring, like when it comes to professionals, a lot of people are indifferent of like, should I hire a builder?
Okay.
And what type of builder do I hire? Yeah. Should I hire an interior designer? And so when it comes to these professionals, I'm going to go get a design made for my house. Designs are also based on cost.
Yes.
So you can love a picture online and say, hey, that's the house I want, but you're on a certain budget.
Yep.
Well, is it better, like, would you recommend a lot of people that are building these homes to hire professional builders and professional interior designers? And when would you want them involved?
It's funny because there's one story I always tell. There's one client I did a house for, a great guy, and we designed his house, and he, during the process, he says, Vic, do I build it or do I hire a builder? And, I'm always like, hey, listen, hire a builder, because the work that he was doing was commission-based work.
Okay.
So I said, the more you work, the more you make.
Correct.
If you're building your house, you're not making money.
Correct.
He chose to build his house. Fast forward 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, because that's how long it takes.
That's how long it takes. Yeah. We're doing his next project.
Okay.
So I'm designing another house for him, and he says, Vic, I should have listened to you.
Yeah.
He's like, I should have listened to you. I lost so much income because I was sitting here, like at my rate, or not my rate, his rate, opening doors and meeting tradespeople and doing all this stuff and stressing out and chasing.
Yeah.
He's like, I should have just been making money, and I would have paid the builder and still made more money.
I think, and aside from just on that basis, there's also a level of expertise and experience. So
exactly.
One mistake might cost you 20 grand,
100%,
30 grand. 100%. So the way I looked at it when I was going through this process, my dad was a builder back in the early 2000s. Yeah. And I think, it was late 90s. And so when we were designing their house for my parents, he didn't want to hire a builder. He's like, oh, I could do this. I said, but you're not valuing the expertise. You're not valuing your time. And that's the process we went through. Just because based on my clients, I hear it from my clients that have went through the process. They said, man, if I had to do this ever again, gotta hire a builder.
And I recommend...
And an interior designer.
I would recommend interior designer too. It's the same thing. I tell clients, like, do you want to spend 15 hours driving around to find that one beige tile? Right? And that's just the one beige tile.
Yeah.
Do you want to spend another 15 hours driving around to find that piece of molding?
Yeah.
And will you have, like, the interior designers that we work with here locally are the
phenomenal.
Best.
Yeah.
They are brilliant.
Yes.
Comparatively, I'll do projects, in the U.S.
Yeah.
And if I was to take anyone from here against anyone over there, they're brilliant here.
Yeah.
Just the product, it's so amazing. It's so beautiful. So interior designer, I recommend, because it's going to be cohesive.
Yeah.
Everything is going to, it's going to match.
Well, it's not only match. I think that's the finishing touch. That's what puts it all together.
Right.
The colors, the materials, the furniture.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm going through that process myself. They're picking everything. And someone might look at that cost and be like, oh, that's a waste of money because you could have done it yourself. Mm-hmm. I could have done it myself, but I know how much these designers, how much time and effort they put into making this because this is like my forever home, as we say, right? So I know how much time goes into it. Yeah. What the time goes in it for them, it probably would have taken me 3 times that amount of time because I'm not experienced. Yeah. I don't know where to look. Yeah. I don't know what are the new styles, what is timeless and what's not timeless. Because I wanted my house not like, I know you had a lot of clients that want something unique and personal. Yeah. I wanted something, I'm more old school. Yeah. I like the simple traditional looks. Yes. Because I would always want to look back 10 years from now and still be in love with that timeless look, right?
I've seen it so many times where things look great, but the floor was just off. And it ruins the whole thing. Yeah. Or the color was just off. Yeah. The tiles were just off.
That's right.
And it can take, a person's invested so much money already. Yes. Why not guarantee it's going to look good?
Guarantee, yeah. That's what it is, yeah.
So absolutely, I would recommend builder and interior designer any day. So
yeah. So looking ahead for the next 5 years, what are the trends that you're seeing?
Well, I learned very early in my career that if I look to California, they're 5 years ahead of us. Okay. So I see trends in California, and then I see them 5 years later out here.
Interesting.
Right? And over 20 years, you kind of recognize this pattern. Yeah. So some of the modern stuff that they're doing in Hollywood, some of the really rich neighborhoods, they're emerging here now.
Oh. Okay.
And there's a California farmhouse that's kind of emerging a little bit, bit lower slope roof. Not so much our modern farmhouse. It's become very popular. Yeah. And it's cost effective. Yeah. And it allows for nice layouts on the inside because there's a certain boxiness to the design, which allows more flexibility.
Low pitch.
Internally. And it also meets height regulations, allowing for higher ceiling height. So there's, we can go on for that. So I see that emerging. One style I'm working on right now, and I haven't posted a lot of it because some of my clients will say, don't post it until we're done. Yeah. A lot of my good stuff I can't post. Yeah. But, it's coming. And French Provincial.
French Provincial.
Yeah, French Provincial. So, we're moving away from farmhouse a little bit, but French Provincial, because who's got the money? The older generation.
Correct.
They love some of this old classic stuff.
Yes.
And, they're paying the bills. So, correct. Mom and dad sometimes want a specific style. Yeah. And so I'm trying to take French Provincial and I'm adding some high roofs, some bold features, breezeways. Yeah. And really taking what we have seen with moldings and stucco and kind of evolving it a little bit. Yeah. French Provincial has character that's been in castles for hundreds of years. So when we visually see it, it exudes richness to us. Yes. So on that spectrum, I see that as staying as stable. And then I wanted to finish with farmhouse. Yeah. So the Dutch farmhouse, the modern farmhouse, the farmhouse kind of like you're building. Yeah. These styles are very popular. Yeah. Because in 20 years, if you look at that house, that style, you can't tell. Right? Like you can update the inside of a house. And for the most part, with some of these rustic, interiors, you don't need to. No. Because it has that classic look. That classic look. Yeah. It takes you back. I love movies. Yeah. And I love watching old movies. Yeah. And when I'm watching old movies, I almost lose myself in the architecture of the time. Yeah. And so when I'm looking at a farmhouse or I'm looking at stuff, I can see these consistent trends. And so, farmhouse is here to stay. And it fits well agricultural properties.
That's right.
Right?
Or just an acreage in general.
An acreage in general, absolutely.
But you're right. It's like, because I'm building more of a farm style house. My friend is, he's building more of, I would say Perimeters is more of a modern.
It's a mountain modern.
Mountain modern.
Yeah, and so we took modern and I always use the word married, but we married kind of a modern with a mountain living. Yeah. And, it turned out really nice. It's beautiful. It's actually one of my favorite houses.
And I remember, but it goes back to preference, right? Like you're not really doing this for everybody else to look at.
Exactly.
You are going to live there. You're going to have to look at it. You're going to want to see it in 10 years and still want to be in love with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And what we did with that one, and what was really nice is we wanted them, when they walked into that house, to feel like they were in the mountains.
Yeah.
In Colorado at a ski resort.
Yes.
And so with the builder, with the interior designer, we've created that. So they have those elements in the house where
it's very unique.
It's very unique, and they come in and they escape. And we've carried that into their, their bathrooms. We've carried that into to all the areas in the house and into the back.
Yes.
Right. When you step through the house and then you go out onto the pool deck.
He's got this oasis.
It's an oasis, and you're hidden. And we kept a lot of the trees. Well, they wanted to, right, which is great, because a lot of times our clients want to clear cut everything, and so they wanted to keep as many trees. So the city's happy, right? Yeah, the city's happy, and they were happy, and for privacy, neighbors are happy.
Yes,
right. So yeah, that was one of my favorite houses. Just like that's up there. I love doing it, and they had a lot of faith, and they had interior designer, they had a builder. They put that faith in, and they were allowed to, they were able to continue doing what they do.
That's right.
Which was important. So kind of going back to that. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Vic, I want to thank you once again for taking out the time, for sharing all of your knowledge. For our listeners out there, if they have any questions, or if they would like to retain you for any of your services, what's the best contact to get a hold of you?
Email Kapoor Homes, Kapoor Homes @gmail.com, or you can look me up on Instagram, Kapoor Home Design. You can message me through Instagram. We will get back to you right away, and that's the best way to get a hold of me. But thank you for having me here. This was it was nice.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for coming out.
Chatting. So thank you.
Yeah.